Well, we have another round of NBA dominoes falling as Miami Heat are about to acquire Klay Thompson as he's reached a buyout agreement with the Dallas Mavericks and already plans to sign with the Miami Heat. Is this enough now, shooting for the Miami Heat to actually make noise in the East? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Darius Garland says that he is fully recovered and healed and ready to do work with the Los Angeles Clippers, and the New York Knicks and Josh Hart are working out a contract extension that could be a 3-year deal. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Full Court Podcast. My name is Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow us at the Full Court YT on every social media platform we happen to be on. And this one just broke less than an hour ago. Klay Thompson has officially reached a buyout with the Dallas Mavericks, and now he finds himself on his way to the Miami Heat once this all clears. Is this the right move for the Miami Heat and for Klay Thompson? And I'll say this, there's a perfect fit there. Klay Thompson provides shooting. He brings championship-level experience. He does not need the ball to impact spacing on the court because he still can come off screens. He doesn't need the ball, doesn't need to dribble a lot. And regardless of the slide that Klay Thompson is, there's no doubt that Klay Thompson is not the player that he once was before. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to make a big case for that being there. But he is still a player that you have to respect, right? And so because of that, and because of the way that teams are still going to respect his shooting, especially coming off screens from players that he can come off screens for, it's a big move here that I think that the Miami Heat just made. They just got a guy that fits exactly what they need as far as being off ball, all the types of stuff. He doesn't get in the way. And I do think Klay Thompson, who recently said that he wants to play for championships, we could see him step up in a major way for this Miami Heat team. And keep in mind, like, this is a guy that, even say what you will, still averaged 11 points per game last year. He averaged 14 the year before that, playing 72 games. So, yes, Klay Thompson is a career 18-point per game scorer. He's not that guy anymore. But you look at it, 38% from three last year, 39% the year before that. This is a guy that's still on volume, over 7 3-pointers both in each of those seasons. So that's going to be something that really can help this Miami Heat team in exactly what they need and the spacing that they need. If Klay Thompson's role is controlled, this could be major value for this team, especially he's not going to get paid a lot because he's coming off the buyout. But at the same time, you do have to still play it close. Klay's not the same athlete that he was before. He's not the same defender that he was before. And that defensive drop-off for a player like Klay Thompson does matter a whole lot, right? You cannot expect prime Klay Thompson production from him on this team. You just can't. If he's overextended, it can backfire if you overextend him. So I think that you look at it, they need current impact. They don't need nostalgia. And Klay Thompson, they're going to have to play with what Klay Thompson is right now. So the question now becomes about, has the Miami Heat, over what they've done this offseason, fixed the shooting concern that they had when Giannis first got traded to the Miami Heat? Let's talk about it, right? You got Tim Hardaway Jr. there, who's going to provide some shooting. Absolutely. Look at him. He's a career 36% three-point shooter. He shot the ball 40% from three last year, taking 6.5 three-pointers, 6.9, almost 7 three-pointers per game. So that's legitimate three-point shooting. And Tim Hardaway Jr. has been a solid three-point shooter over his entire career. Andrew Wiggins shot 41% from three last year, taking 4.9 per game. And then the year before that, 37%, taking 5.6 per game. So, like, even then, Wiggins is a career 36% three-point shooter. So you're going to hope that he also can bring enough shooting. If they have enough spacing on this team to go along with Giannis and Bam and the defense they're going to have, Davion Mitchell, as well as the defender that they're going to have, the thing that I always say is that if you are a team with shaky or concerning shooting, how good you are defensively matters in that. Even Mitchell, last 2 years, 39% shooting from three, taking 3 3-pointers per game. So there's a world in which now the Miami Heat are going to have enough shooting. There may not be an elite shooting team, but they may have enough shooting. You just got to keep the defense from packing it in against you, and that gives Giannis and Bam space to work. That's what you need. Klay Thompson is still a guy that his shooting gravity is still real. He opens up driving lanes. He does all the type of things. He can punish the defense. So I think that's there. And I do want to be clear, the spacing is bigger than just one player. That's why I mentioned the players that I just mentioned. If Tim Hardaway Jr., Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, Klay Thompson, if those guys can shoot the ball decently enough, Miami Heat could have enough shooting to make them good enough and to get it done. I also have brought up before Ryan Conwell. Now, it's a rookie. We don't know exactly he's going to play. He was a rookie picked in the second round. So you look at that. But this is another guy that has scoring gravity also that could be on the bench, especially if you develop him. You look at what he was in college, 37% career three-point shooter, taking 6.7 per game. So another guy that could provide some more spacing. If it doesn't come down to one guy being your spacing, then it's legitimate there. And now I think Klay Thompson gets to move into a new chapter of his career. He talked about he wanted to play for championships. You now have that chance in a revamped Eastern Conference on a revamped Miami Heat team, and you have a coach in Eric Spoelstra who's one of the best coaches in the league. They have a strong culture, and Eric Spoelstra is the type of coach that gets the most out of every talent on the roster, and that's there. Now, yeah, it could be a risky ending to Klay Thompson's career, but it's not more risky than withering away on a rebuilding Dallas Mavericks team either. So we'll see what's going to happen there. I like it. We'll see what's going to continue. Let me know down below how you feel about Klay Thompson and his move now heading over to the Miami Heat. With that said, Darius Garland. We're going to switch gears into Darius Garland and what he said about him being ready and healthy for the season. He says this: "It was very frustrating just because the season I had before, it was really, really good. So I think we could have had a chance of making a run if I didn't get hurt. So that was pretty frustrating, but it's pretty tough to just go out there playing with 9 toes for like half a year. But it's all good though, because the second half of the year I had all 10 toes and I felt really good. I felt I was getting back to normal. But now having a full summer, having a full offseason, back to 100%, it was a mental fog most of the time because we're using our toes 24/7. So just out there trying to run on it and play defense, slide and everything like that, it was pretty tough. Just had to work through it. I get paid to do this stuff. I just wanted to put on my hard hat and go out there and work and do the best that I could." So we'll see. Right? He also talked about being happy in LA. Like the Los Angeles Clippers roster is one of the craziest. Like it just doesn't make sense. But here's the thing: what does a healthy Darius Garland do for the Los Angeles Clippers? He gives them a true lead point guard. He can create off the dribble. He brings shooting and pick and roll control as well, which is always good for a team. And this is the first time that Darius Garland has had a healthy offseason in a very long time. In his speed, his playmaking, his decision-making, all that type of stuff, he gets there. And if he's 100%, he gives them a major offensive boost. And you look at Keaton Wagler as well, we'll see what happens with that. Now, at the same time, it's easy to feel good in the offseason when you're not playing games. The toe issue that's bothered him for the last 2 seasons, you're not running around, you're not traveling, it's there, right? If Darius Garland does prove that he can hold up physically, it's going to change something with that. So now the question becomes about what is this Clippers team? Should the Clippers be taken seriously in the Western Conference? And I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what this team is. I'm not going to fake the funk for y'all. I'm not going to try to tell you I don't know. You have Brandon Ingram, you have Derrick Jones Jr., you have Brook Lopez, you have Bradley Beal coming off the bench, right? You have Darius Garland, Keaton Wagler as these young players that you're trying to develop as well. You got Bobo Miller, one of my favorite players in that draft, but then again, we don't know how much he's going to play this year. You got Isaiah Jackson on this team. You got still Rui Hachimura as well coming off the bench. Like, there's a world in which this Clippers team is a tough Western Conference team. I don't know how much they're going to win. I don't know if they're going to win 40-plus games, but they could be a sneaky, dangerous team in the Western Conference. But they're still in transition. The roster direction is still very unclear on exactly what they're trying to do with this roster, right? Now, a healthy Darius Garland maybe helps add clarity to that. I still think that this is a team that could be looking to showcase players like Brandon Miller and maybe even Bradley Beal and other players to see if you can eventually move those guys as the season goes on. You got role players like Derrick Jones Jr. who helped the team go to the finals, right? Those type of things. So we'll see. The Clippers are just a really interesting team because the roster construction, they can be really competitive right now if it all works out. They could be a team that's looking to move off a lot of pieces at the deadline and stack assets, or they can be a team that just sits in this with a mix of veterans and a mix of young players for a year or two and just figures it out and just plays basketball. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with the Clippers, but we'll see. Let me know down below, what do you think about the Clippers and what happens with them going forward? Next topic of the day, Josh Hart. Josh Hart reportedly, and this comes from James Edwards of The Athletic, that Josh Hart and the Knicks could find ground on a 3-year deal worth the $60 million range, right? Saying this: Josh Hart and the New York Knicks could eventually agree upon a 3-year extension worth between $54 and $62 million that will represent a middle ground. According to one league source, a second source pointed to a similar figure suggesting 3 years worth $60 to $62 million total. Hart became eligible for a contract extension on August 10th, with the maximum allowable deal being worth 4 years, $132 million. Hart is entering the final guaranteed year of his contract at $20.9 million salary, with a team option worth roughly $22 million for 27-28. So with the league salary cap increasing, is this going to be enough to keep Josh Hart? And I think a lot of it comes down to how good do the New York Knicks look this year? Because if they think that they can still win more titles, then you're going to probably keep him, right? Now, as we know that teams like to avoid the second tax apron, Josh Hart could end up a cap casualty. But Hart has proven himself to be a player that helps winning. He defends, he cuts, he connects the lineups, and that connection piece, we've seen other teams, when you lose your piece that's a connector, your team can take a nosedive no matter how good your top-level talent is, right? He shot a career-best 41% from three last season as well. So I think a deal between $18 and $20 million is not outrageous, right? But at the same time, be careful, because Josh Hart is not a primary scorer. When you look at Brunson, Bridges, OG, Cat, those are all guys that are up higher up on the hierarchy, probably before Josh Hart is, right? And because role players can become harder to move when they're paid too much, New York may provide prioritize the flexibility of not giving Josh Hart that type of contract. So we'll see, right? Josh Hart, though, is a player that's very hard to price because the impact that he has goes well beyond stats. And that's why I say he's a connector and piece. You need those type of teams on there. He pushes the pace. He plays with toughness. He rebounds. He plays really good playoff basketball, right? And he makes winning plays. Those are things that don't always show up on the stat sheet in the same way, right? But at the same time, contracts are directly tied to production. And so now you got to see what's going to happen. At $60 million, is that a reasonable contract for a reliable playoff impact player? I think that it is, especially if you feel like you're still contending for titles. And that's what's going to be. But let me know what you guys think down below. What happens with Josh Hart? Do you think the $60 million contract range over 3 years is good value for Josh Hart? Do you think it's an underpay? Do you think it's an overpay? Let me know down below. Last topic of the day before we get out of here. The Cavs are going to waive and stretch Cam Whitmore. And I think that this is a smart move. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Cam Whitmore is still a player that still has some upside. And maybe that's just me holding on to what Cam Whitmore was supposed to be and the potential of Cam Whitmore and all that type of stuff. But, like, I look at Cam Whitmore and I say, like, this is a guy that's still 22 years old, 6'6", 230 pounds, can play the wing. You know, I think that he needs to lock in on defending a little bit more sometimes, but the upside's there. Now, the side that's against this, his three-point shooting has gotten worse every year that he's been in the league. His number of games played has gotten worse. He played 21 games last season, and so there's a part. He's never played over 60 games in his 3 years in the NBA, right? Now, he is also a guy that's averaged 10.5 points. He's done that on 8.7 shots per game, 45% shooting from the field over his career, and 34% three-point shooting. I still think Cam Whitmore would be an interesting piece for teams that are rebuilding, that are in the spot of looking for young talent all over the place. And I think that does happen, right? So, we'll see. I do think that Cam Whitmore is a guy that somebody's going to take a shot on. And if he goes to a team where he's able to kind of just play more free and just kind of be himself, maybe he can re-up some value here. Because this is a young player that you look for the Cavs and where they are. Like, young players with upside are the exact type of young team. When you're a team that's close to the second tax apron, that's what you want to see. So we're hearing that the Cavs are weighing that option to waive and stretch Cam Whitmore, and we're going to see what happens in regards to that one. But I like Cam Whitmore, and I would not be surprised if he pops up on an NBA team, whether it's now, a couple years later, and we're like, hey, Cam Whitmore has actually turned himself into a pretty solid player. So let's see what's going to happen in regards to that. But that's going to do it for today, y'all. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys sound off down below on all the topics that we covered. How do you feel about everything you guys make this channel? Make sure you guys also like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. You can follow us at the Full Court YT on every social media platform that we're on. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. NBA Central Show at gmail.com. I got to get a new email. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything NBA and basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making an episode. It probably won't be tomorrow. You probably won't see me again until Sunday unless big news happens. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.